Well, yesterday, Congressman Dan Crenshaw was caught on an open microphone saying that if he ever saw Tucker Carlson face to face, that he would kill him. Watch.
Have you ever met Tucker?
We've talked a lot. If I ever meet him, I'll probably kill him. He's the worst person.
He's the worst person, he says.
Yeah, so he threatened to kill Tucker Carlson. Then Congresswoman Marguerite Taylor Greene asked him if this was true on social media. She posted this, said, "Hey, Dan Crenshaw, did you threaten to kill my friend Tucker Carlson?" To which Crenshaw replied, "LOL, no. But we saw the video." And then the reporter who was interviewing him actually confirmed the exchange. Stephen Edgington said, "After our interview, I asked Dan Crenshaw if he had ever met Tucker Carlson. He said, I would kill him if I saw him. I laughed it off. But then he said, no, seriously, I would kill him." Then Tucker responded last night, "Why don't you come sit for an interview and we'll see how you do? I'll send you my address, Dan Crenshaw." So I asked Tucker today if Crenshaw responded, and Tucker just laughed and said, no, he's a coward. Of course he is. So I don't think he's going to do that interview. Maybe since I talked to Tucker this morning, maybe that's changed. I don't know. Probably not. He doesn't want people calling him out as a rhino, as a globalist warmonger, just like Alex Stein did when Crenshaw sent $80 billion to Ukraine. Watch Alex confront him on the street.
Is there an invasion on our border? Will you admit that there's an invasion on our border?
There's an invasion on our border.
Yeah, but you won't do anything about it. But why do you give $80 billion to Ukraine? Why do you give $80 billion to Ukraine?
I think you're getting the numbers wrong there, buddy.
Oh, what are we at, $100 billion now?
No, it's not even close.
What are we up to now?
Yeah, $350
and they even say
billion.
none of those weapons even go to the front lines. So why don't you start caring about America?
Actually, they do.
You don't care about America at all, Dan. You're a globalist, you're a traitor, you're a dwarf. There's Dan Crenshaw. Come on. Come on, dude.
Modern-day version of the people.
Oh, I'm a piece of shit. You're the one that's a globalist. You're killing young children for no reason, sending them to war for nothing.
Exactly, 100%. Alex Stein is the host of Prime Time with Alex Stein on Blaze TV. Huge fan of Alex, and great to have Alex here on the show. Great to see you.
Maybe one of the first questions we have is, where do you get the huevos?
Yeah, that's balls in English.
I think I was just, raised by a bail bondsman. I grew up in Dallas. My dad's a bail bondsman, so I was kind of raised by. My dad could never get a good babysitter, so he would always have to have the ex-convicts that he got out of jail to raise me. So I think that's why I'm so upset. Because
I love it.
By, ex-cons.
We need more of that. We need more ex-cons raising people like that and confronting our politicians. I mean, Tucker took it in stride. He just wants to sit down and have an interview with him. But of course, he's a coward. He never will. And these globalists don't want to confront the fact that they are supporting these endless wars, the military-industrial complex in the United States that's now killed, the numbers I've seen, according to reports, 1.08 million Ukrainian men are now killed as a result of this boondoggle that started back in 2014. With the military-industrial complex and the CIA fomenting this war back in 2014 in a CIA-backed coup. So they don't want to confront this, right? They're going to just continue to hide from people like Tucker.
Well, Clayton, you've talked about this, and I didn't even get to say thank you for having me on, but you've talked about this. We can look into 9/11, and whether you think that the government had prior knowledge, I guess they admit that, and whether you think it's an inside job or not, that's fine. But what we do know is that the government lied about weapons of mass destruction. They said that they had these weapons and that they had to go over there, invade these countries, and kill these millions of people for weapons of mass destruction that did not exist. And what makes Dan Crenshaw so disgusting is that he knows that he fought a war based on a lie, and he does not care. He lost his eye, and I appreciate the service that he did in protecting our country. But the fact that he's a globalist and he wants to send more young children to go lose their eye for a war that doesn't matter. And like you said, I believe it's 1 million Russians, over 1 million people. I think it's a total 2 million people, I believe, are dead almost in the Ukraine. So it's absolutely insane that the lack of empathy that these politicians have. And that's true. If Dan Crenshaw could kill Tucker Carlson, he would do it. I'm not even kidding. He was not joking around. That was a serious statement that he said to that reporter.
And do you think it's specifically the war in Ukraine where they have the largest factions? Because Tucker has been willing to speak out about the war in Gaza and Israel's continued assault on civilians, not just Hamas, but civilians. So could it be that is adding fuel to the fire, or it's just one big bonfire?
Well, of course, Natalie, but you know what really makes my, it just makes me so mad, my blood boil about the Gaza Strip. Did you guys see this? And I'm sure you guys like this, where they did have a temporary ceasefire so that they could vaccinate Palestinians. So did you guys see this? You guys know what I'm talking about? No, this is true. Look it up. This is real. They had a temporary ceasefire so that they could vaccinate Palestinians. If they're willing to do a temporary ceasefire to vaccinate their enemies that they supposedly want to kill, it's all fake. It's all BS. It's literally a waste of time. And is Trump's plan going to work, going and turning the Gaza Strip into Orlando, Florida? I don't know if that's going to work either. I think a two-state solution is probably the only actual fair thing. But what's happening in the Gaza Strip right now, it's not going to be a fair solution. So we have these people like Dan Crenshaw that benefit from all of the military surplus that they sell to all these countries. You're going to have constant people that use AIPAC to fund more of these wars. So I really don't know how we stop it, Clayton and Natalie. It's only going to get worse unless we have people like you with all these viewers speaking out against it.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I think, and Dan Crenshaw, I mean, he's really he's emblematic of this kickback machine. I would love to know how much of these guys are part of this money laundering operation. Because you saw as Trump started to make peace agreements with Putin, started to talk peace and what the plans were there, all the neocons like the Dan Crenshaws of the world, the rhinos, they all started coming out of the woodwork. You saw Nikki Haley coming out. You saw Mike Pence. They all came out like termites. Like within 24 hours, they came out of the ground and they all started telling us we need to stand with Ukraine. It's like, how much of this money are these guys getting?
Well, I don't know how much money. I know Dan Crenshaw's stock portfolio is doing very well. But you and I both know, we all know that the way this war is going to end, either the Donbass region is probably going to be autonomous, or people are going to be able to say they're Russian, or they're going to be able to say they're Ukrainian. And then Ukraine's not going to be able to join NATO. And that's exactly what Russia wanted from the start. So millions of people literally died for absolutely nothing. And you know what's really sad is that when this war is over, we're going to memory hole this. We won't even talk about it. Just like nobody's talking about how a Black Hawk helicopter just ran into an American Airlines flight, in the nation's capital. Like, we don't even talk about that anymore. So watch this Ukraine war. They'll forget about it like that.
Right. Oh, it's deeply distressing. I mean, so do you think that this, in your interactions with Dan Crenshaw, we'll get you out of here on this, Alex. Do you think he's going to sit down with Tucker Carlson? Do you think he'll actually be a man and sit down and actually do an interview?
Well, he never could, because listen, you can talk all day long. There's a lot of rhinos that say they're conservative, but there's just some few basic tenets. It's like we want individual liberty and we want limited government. Dan Crenshaw does not want those two things. So if he has to speak to a guy like Tucker, those are two of his main principles when it comes to his morals and values and ethics, then obviously he's going to win in any sort of debate against Dan Crenshaw. So Dan Crenshaw probably only could look bad by going on Tucker, and Tucker will look awesome. But you said it, Tucker said it. Dan Crenshaw is a coward. Dan Crenshaw is the last guy that wants to go and actually take a chance to maybe start a conversation. Maybe his point is the correct point, but he'll never go and debate it against a guy like Tucker Carlson, because he is just a coward and a fraud and a liar.
And a dwarf who needs a diaper change. He's about Zelensky's height. Alex, great to see you. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much for jumping in on this. It's amazing. We'll see if he actually does the interview. Thanks so much, Alex. We appreciate it.
And one thing I just want to say, you guys have done such great work over the last few years, and to see you guys grow and the success you've had. And you spoke out about a lot of subjects during, COVID and 9/11 and a lot of stuff that I know that you could get canceled for. So I really appreciate you, Clayton, and Natalie for taking
thanks for saying that.
And I'm not trying to kiss your butt. I mean that, because I talk about these things. I try to do it in a comedic way. But it's hard because I get strikes and I get censored. So I imagine you guys.
No, I see you take it. I mean, the way that you take it to these people is unbelievable, and I don't know that I would have the courage to do that. So keep up the amazing work, Alex, and it's great to have like-minded people on our show like this.
Well, before we let him go, can I ask you, do you think the temperature is different now? Because yes, you're right. We took a lot of abuse. We got punished a lot for the topics we dared to cover. But it does feel a little bit more like we have some wiggle room. Do you feel that?
Well, for sure, but this is what's going to happen, Natalie, and you guys know this because it happened during the pandemic. Things are going to be great, in the next year. But watch, these people, these deep state globalists that are threatened by Trump, they're going to get more desperate as the clock starts ticking, and they see, a successful presidency for Trump could lay the groundwork for J.D. Vance and other anti-establishment candidates. So I just imagine that things are going to be good for a little bit, and then they're going to just kind of amp it up when it comes to the social justice issues, the trans stuff, the George Floyd type events. So God bless America right now. We are really living large, but what do they say when something really good is happening? Just wait a second, and you just never know what's behind, I guess, that third door. And I do think one day, and probably sooner than later, because they're going to get more desperate, weird stuff will start happening.
And desperation comes from us taking away their money. And that's really what we're seeing right now as these people are protesting and taking to the streets about USAID and all of their money drying up and all these kickbacks. Take away their money, and that's when you're going to start to see these desperate people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right about that. Alex, great to see you. Thank you for the great work, and thanks for your great sense of humor. We need more people like you and covering these stories. We appreciate it. Thanks, Alex.
Talk to you guys later. Have a good one.